What is going on, YouTube people? New Cards and Comics here. What a wild week in the wonderful world of cardboard and expensive paper. The news has really been kind of flowing the last 2 to 3 weeks. It just seems like there's just crazy stuff after crazy stuff after crazy stuff. We had top CT scanning policy. We have Fanatics potentially getting in the repacks. We have the Skeens 1 of 1 getting hit. We have PSA backlog. We have PSA price increasing. We have SGC running specials. We have a bunch of stuff I haven't even talked about yet, like Fanatics getting into card shops. We have Ken Golden CT scanning boxes and then selling them. It has just been a wild couple of weeks. We had a little tiny slow period there around the holidays, and then business has really picked up. Shows are going crazy. The Dallas show I heard last week was absolutely nuts. Culture Collision is going on right now. I haven't heard anything from that show. If you were at Culture Collision, feel free to fire off in the comments down below. Shipshawana is coming up at the end of the month. I have a big Washington, PA show next weekend. I believe that's all weekend. It's like 600 tables at a mall down near Wheeling, West Virginia. I'm going to try to head down to that at some point in time. Shows seem absolutely going crazy. Jaden Daniels cards are going to the moon like it's 2021. Wild stuff. Before we get into some individual stories, we've got a shout out channel partner, COMC.com. I recently sent a large shipment into them that has all been completely upgraded now, or uploaded now. Those cards I am beginning to sell off, build back up that little bankroll, that little nest egg over there. I also, maybe I'll do a reveal in a different video because I don't have it pulled up. My SGC grades popped through COMC. Took a little over a month, so not bad turnaround time. I think the estimate was they would be done like January 15th or 16th or 17th or something like that, and they actually just popped the other day. So that was 2 Game of Thrones autos that I sent in from House of the Dragon, the Matt Smith and the Emma Darcy. So super excited about those. I'm going to actually have those shipped home. I moved those over into the pile to ship home. I actually recently picked up another really cool card on COMC that I sent into PSA for grading, a vintage MTG card that I picked up. I'll wait for the grade to pop on that to reveal it. That'll probably take a little bit of time to get back. I did send that through regular service because of the pricing on it though. But COMC, absolutely fantastic. I personally like to use it for selling off those low value cards and now buying singles and grade on there. I just recently did that with both SGC and PSA. The $16 grading, like I said, I got it back in about a month, which is not bad turnaround time at all, considering I didn't have to do anything on my own. First story. This is one that I had a tab open for a couple of days. Was going to do a video on it and just never got around to it. Fanatics is opening their own collectible store in London. So they are getting into the card shop business. Nothing in the States yet. This one is UK based. For me, this is more of a, I don't think we're going to see Fanatics run all your local LGSs out of business. They're not going to want that sort of overhead, dealing with all that nonsense that comes with that at little shops across America. What I do think this is probably going to lead to is potentially a couple of different things. I could see them having flagship stores in like New York and LA and, other major metropolitan areas. I don't think that they're going to try to replace Card Collector 2 or some other small local LGS or anything like that. I don't think they want to get in that business, but I do think they want flagship stores at key cities around the country. I also could see, if this is successful, I think what they could do is incorporate, which I know they do this already, but maybe you could see them doing it a little bit more, working more hobby product into, and when I mean hobby product, I just mean like sports cards in general, not hobby boxes, but more collectible product merchandise into lid stores, because those are already established entities. They're already staffed. They're already built. They already exist. They're already all over the place. So if you wanted a retail front, you could just move more new product into those stores. Now, we'll see what this thing rolls out. Do they have singles? Is it memorabilia? Is it just wax? In the little mock-up images, it looks like it's a little bit of everything, but we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what this thing looks like when it comes out. I could also see them doing shops at stadiums. Now, you wouldn't be able to do singles or anything in there because of the limited time that they're open, but you could do something like a retail kiosk, maybe not necessarily a full shop, around just new release products. Like, hey, look, we're at Jacobs Field. We have Top Series 1. And yes, I said Jacobs Field. We have Top Series 1 as the new release, and it's loaded up with a bunch of, Top Series 1. You could go buy, rip some packs while you're at the game or whatever. And as they get licenses to other sports, they could do stuff like that in the future as well if they wanted to. But I would not be surprised if this time next year we're talking about them opening a flagship store in New York City somewhere or somewhere like that. So I'm not super surprised by this. I don't think their end goal here is to replace every mom and pop local card shop across the country. Little Panini news. We have a updated release calendar. The notable ones on here: Prism WNBA, February 12th, 2025. That's right. You want to spend the night with the missus on Valentine's Day? You could go out a couple of days before and get her a nice Prism hobby box and chase Caitlin Clark together. The week after that, we get the full mainline release of Prism basketball on the NBA side of things. I don't think many people are going to care. It is a pretty weak draft class. That will be an interesting one to follow along. Let's see how that product holds up, because there's no chase in it. There's absolutely no chase in that product. We've talked about it before. There's just nothing crazy to go after in there. And then down at the bottom there, you could see some continuing 2024 releases. One of the other notable things, which this is absolutely comical, 2023 Flawless Basketball, April 9th, 2025. That's when that product comes out now. I think I've made fun of this before, but I will continue to make fun of it. 2023 Flawless Basketball, Wemby's rookie class, releases April 9th, 2025. And we wonder why Panini is losing the licenses. I mean, come on. And that product isn't, I don't even know what you're going to chase there because they don't have Wemby autos. So the biggest thing in the product isn't actually going to be in the product. I don't even know if they got game used jerseys for that. If you had a licensed game used jersey card, that might be a little bit of a chase, but I don't know. That'll be a fascinating one to follow along with as well. And then we have some other releases sprinkled throughout there, but those are the notable ones. Obviously, the Skeens 101 card, that is the talk of the town. Everyone and their brother and sister will be making content on that over the weekend and into next week. All the podcasts, all the talking head shows, we will all take our whack at it, and Topps is going to love life. I did find this one kind of funny from Ken Golden, a little bit of salt on this one, as he doesn't seem very thrilled that Fanatics basically had this thing under lock and key in regards to getting it on to their platform. This one was getting a lot of traction on Friday night on social media. I just found it kind of amusing. He's not wrong, but that's how Fanatics builds their business, on leveraging all those different angles and having everything covered, that it all gets to stay inside their ecosystem. More Ken Golden news, actually. I did a full video on this over on the TCG channel. Yes, that's right. If you don't know, I have a second YouTube channel covering specific TCG topics. So if you want a full breakdown on this, you could check that out over on that channel. But Golden Auctions, and this is not the first time they've used CT scanning, they CT scanned a first edition Pokemon box to verify what is inside is actually a first edition Pokemon box, not G.I. Joe cards. They used the same company that has been under the gun for CT scanning left and right. This is the first known instance that I'm aware of that someone has used CT scanning, I guess the best way to say this, for the power of good, to actually check the contents and see if it is legit. Now, that What individual cards are in there is not disclosed. They are just verifying that it is indeed first edition Pokemon cards, not actually like how many Charizards are in there or anything like that. So it's not like there's a detailed report attached to the auction that you could see exactly how many of each card are in there. But an interesting use case of this, especially for high-end sealed wax. And, you know, if you're looking to buy something super expensive, like one of these ridiculously expensive boxes, you might want that certification that it's been through the CT scanner to say, yeah, it's not G.I. Joe cards in there. You're actually safe. So this could be the tip of the iceberg on this type of use case for this technology, especially if this sells for a premium, if you can eliminate the question of what's inside the box is actually in there. Topps Chrome Football. This took a couple of days, but it actually did finally. I'm going to use sellout here very loosely because it's obviously not sold out. Just whatever allocation they wanted to move through their website finally ended, at least for hobby boxes. These were $350. We'll see how these go once they hit the secondary market. As I said in the initial video on it, I have next to zero interest in this product. But they did end up selling out online. Did take a few days, though. It did not instantly go. I think hobby cases went immediately, but individual hobby boxes sat for at least a few days before they ended up, air quote, selling out. The other big Fanatics news / Topps news this week was this story about their financial data. I did a standalone video on that you could go check out. That one dropped, I think, Wednesday or Thursday night. But needless to say, Topps makes them a boatload of money. Topps is doing quite well for Fanatics. Now, Fanatics overall doing all right, but Topps definitely seems to be the hard portion of their business, seems to be firing on all cylinders. And as I discussed in the full video on that, that is without them even having all the licenses under their belt. So you think they were printing money now. Just wait until they get football and basketball in-house as well. Let's switch over, look at a little market mover, some charts and graphs, a link in the description down below. First up, Topps Chrome update boxes. The Skeens has been pulled. Now what? Actually, not a ton of movement yet. I think it's still a little too soon to see where these things are going to settle in. The last jumbo box sold prior to the news coming out for like 1.15, basically 1.2K. I will say one is currently sitting on eBay for $850 bin. So even though the last sale was $1,200, one has not sold since, but one is sitting at $850 and no one's buying it. Makes me think that, you know, you're probably looking at $750, $800. So that's going to be a pretty big drop on jumbo. Breaker's Delight is down slightly, and hobby boxes are down slightly as well, both about 10%. Hobby boxes actually dipped harder. They were down into the 400s. There was even some sales around in the 300s on hobby boxes as people were fire selling them. They did bounce back a little bit. I think in the next week or two, we'll kind of have a better idea of the impact of the Skeens being pulled, but it was definitely keeping the market propped up on these, which does bring up an interesting point. You know, we dissected the whole Skeens conspiracy theory stuff in yesterday's video. I will say one thing that I would like to see, and they do not do this currently, or they have there is no precedent, I guess, for this. And I think it is a very legitimate, I don't know if gripe's the right word for it, but Topps really should have policy in place that once a redemption has been redeemed, that they make it public. That they come out and say, hey, the Skeens has been redeemed. What we don't know here, the big unknown is when was this actually redeemed? Was it redeemed shortly after Christmas? Was it redeemed in January? Was it redeemed last week? That part is a little nebulous because we don't know. They have not said. They released it when it was going to grading, and then obviously because it was going to go for sale, so it has to be public at that point in time. But I do think as general policy, if they're going to put these lottery cards out there like this, the triple auto from the Olympics, this, the Otani one of ones from the Otani 50/50 set, the 3 Dynasty Black cards. We know one of those has been hit. We don't know that the other 2 has been hit. If they're going to put these as redemptions in the product, I think they should tell us when one has been hit. Now, the counterpoint to that is, if you have a monster chase in a product, say a 101 Superfractor auto or something like that, that is not a redemption, you would never know if that's been hit or not. I mean, there's plenty of cards in the hobby's history that we have no idea if they've been pulled and they're just being kept in secret somewhere, or if they're still sitting in a box somewhere. So I get that side of the argument, but I think when you're going to make these lottery ticket like chases and they are going to be redemptions, at that point, I think it should be known when one has been pulled, because there is legitimate gripe there that, hey, they redeem this the day after Christmas, and Topps knew that for a month and didn't say anything. They have no, they're not legally bound to say anything, but that's where things get a little bit shady, because now you are intentionally keeping box prices inflated that they could break for a higher end value on the platform. So I would like to definitely see some sort of refinement around that, or just come out and say, hey, we're not flat out, if we are not disclosing if a redemption's ever been hit. Like I said, they really haven't done that in the past, but it would be nice to have some clarity on that one way or the other on what their stance is on that. Like, it's up to the actual collector. Personally, given the values of these things and the crazy chases for them, I do think it should be publicized once someone cashes in a redemption. That's just me. Like I said, you could argue the opposite side of that. If the card wasn't a redemption, there's quite possibly you would have no clue whether or not it had been hit or not. But that's where we currently sit with sealed wax prices on Chrome Update. We will see where those move to. The opposite end of the spectrum, Prism Football. My God, Jaden Daniels stuff is on fire. We'll talk more about him in just a second. And it's having a ripple effect on wax prices for Prism Football. I saw, hobby exclusive mega boxes, whatever the hell those are, went up on Panini's website this week and sold out in seconds. I saw people are chasing Prism Football at retail again, all for the Jaden Daniels hype machine. We'll see what happens later today. If they would somehow win that game and he goes to the Super Bowl, look the hell out in regards to prices. Hobby boxes are up about 45% since release, and first off the line boxes are up about 40% since release. And this is all Jaden Daniels driven for the most part. To see wax prices climb like this post-release this quickly, it's all on the Daniels hype train. I'm looking at some of his single cards. I did pull a couple up here. I went with raw. I know there's been some graded sales, but a lot of them look very fishy. I'm going to wait to cover the graded sales prices until that market stabilizes a little bit. This is over the last 14 days. His base Prism is up 115%. His silver Prism is up 60%. And his rookie variation is up about 10 or 15%. That one not getting as much love. But his base Prism and his silver Prism are both climbing rapidly. I think a lot of this, unless he just absolutely craps the bed today, his prices will dip a little bit if they lose, but I do think there is going to be some momentum / carryover into the off season. I think someone commented on an earlier video, I believe they have a ton of cap space. They're going to make moves over the off season. That's going to, any dip that he has, if they go after a big wide receiver or build up the defense or the offensive line or whatever they end up getting, those are going to give him little bumps in prices potentially. And that hype is going to carry into NFL offseason, into the draft, and then into the summer for training camp opening up. And he is going to be probably the most asked about player at the National, barring something crazy happening later today. It's going down the same path we went with CJ Stroud, with Trevor Lawrence before that, with Burrow and Herbert before that, and so on and so forth. And like I said, we all know how those stories kind of end. It'll be fascinating to follow along for the ride. I do not planning on picking up any Jaden Daniels cards anytime soon. Speaking of the playoff games later today, I figured it would be worth it doing a quick little check-in to some of the key players playing later today. This is over the last 30 days. Mahomes, Silver Prism in a PSA 10, up about 20%, and a PSA 9 actually flat to down slightly. Thought that was a little interesting. Josh Allen, Optic Hollow PSA 10, up 40, almost 45% over the last 30 days. Go Bills. Screw the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Hurts, Silver Prism. Hurts gets zero love. Nobody likes Jalen Hurts. Flat, up 5%, $425 for a Silver Prism PSA 10. And then Saquon Barkley is the one getting all the love. His Optic Hollow PSA 10 is up about 10% overall over the last 30 days. He got a big bump up in season. So even though over the last 30, he hasn't moved that much, leading up to this point, he's up a ton if you look at the full season chart. And then obviously, Jaden Daniels, we just covered on the previous, his stuff is going to the moon and back again. The most interesting storyline price-wise to follow along here is the Mahomes stuff. We had a long discussion on it on Off Center this week. You know, what happens if he wins? What happens if he loses? What happens if he wins another Super Bowl? What happens if he does it? You know, all that stuff and how it plays out in his pricing. And I left my crystal ball upstairs, so I have no idea what's going to happen to his prices. We are going to go ahead and wrap things up there. Keep this one a little bit shorter. I actually have a very, very busy day later today. Lots of running around to do. I got to get home, try to watch the Cavs game tonight as they have been slipping of late. They lost to the Sixers last night on the road without Embiid. I was not happy. Mobley's been hurt. We got to get him back on the court. But as always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. We will catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.